Hey Cannabis fam, thanks for tuning in. It's Val, your Cannacopia Podcast host, and I hope you guys are all having a really good day. As usual, we're out here collecting answers to your pressing weed questions. On deck for today, why is legal cannabis so expensive? While we're happy to have easy access to cannabis, something we're all concerned about is the seemingly rising price of weed. What affects that, and is it going to change anytime soon? Also, what's the deal with illegal dispensaries? We'll learn all about them and more with the help of Art Abrahamian, joining us today from WebJoint. WebJoint is a software company working on giving dispensaries and cannabis delivery systems the tools they need to be successful. We're really excited to have Art on today's episode.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you. Today we're talking about sort of the business side of cannabis. It's a hot space right now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got involved? Just a little bit about your background.
Sure, yeah. So I've been making software for the cannabis industry for about 5 or 6 years at this point. We primarily now make software for retailers in the space, primarily in California, so dispensaries and deliveries. And yeah, I mean, kind of how I got into the space about 6 years ago. My business partner and I were making websites for people. We just literally had a general web design company. From there, we transitioned into like a web design company for the cannabis industry. And that kind of just happened because he had a client that he had made a website for in the past that happened to own a dispensary in San Fernando Valley right here in California. And he approached him and said, hey, I need another website. And then my business partner approached me and I said, sure, we're a web design company. You know, he needs a website. Let's make him a website. And that was like the first step into the industry. And then kind of from there, we transitioned fully into the cannabis space. We're making websites for a bunch of people and really just got to learn that clientele. And then really just got to understand what their software needs were. So about 5 years, it's been about almost 5 years now that WebJoint, the software, was born. And yeah, it does everything from helping the retailers manage their inventory to their point of sale, their finances, sales, employees. On the delivery end, we really do a ton, helping the deliveries manage their drivers and inventory in the drivers' vehicles and dispatching orders, automating the taxes for them and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's a legit business these days, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a very legit business.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we want to talk about a little bit, what kind of influences, I think something that's important to consumers is the price and how it's kind of been changing, and what influences the price of cannabis, and what are all the kind of background components that sort of you deal with as a business person in cannabis?
Sure. Oh yeah. That's a good topic for sure. So I guess the price of cannabis, if you just look at it before, right? Mm-hmm. Like when it was just like your friendly neighborhood drug dealer or, your friendly neighborhood dispensary, right? Like the laws before was very like gray area. And so it wasn't technically illegal, but it wasn't technically legal as well. People were going through loopholes in the laws to just like operate their business. But it was, they were entirely cash-based businesses. A lot of these businesses were not paying their taxes as they were supposed to be. And, for a lot of it, you can't even blame them because the infrastructure, like the legal infrastructure, wasn't in place for them to be able to take to pay their taxes and not have to worry about things like that. So back in the day when they didn't have to worry about anything, like they didn't have to get their product tested, right? They, somebody just grew it in their garage or whatever the case might be, and they just sold it for cash. So they had great margins and, they were making good money and they could afford to keep the prices low. So it's kind of like, you even get like $25 eighths back in the day, $35 eighths were kind of more normal, $10 grams or less, or, you could buy one, get one, and they had all these crazy deals. And that was like the standard. That's what people got used to. And now with the regulations, so literally like in January, so it was December 2017, California just dropped their entire new laws, right? So it was the full legal infrastructure, the way cannabis is going to operate in California from this point forward. And those laws made everything really expensive because it was like a legitimate way of operating your business. So just to start, businesses need to get a property, right? And you can't really rent the property. You have to buy the property because your license is attached to the property. So if you rent it from somebody else and then they kick you out a year later, you lost that license because it belongs to that building. So just to even get a license, you need to have a property and then have lawyers, do all the paperwork, have money essentially to be able to get everything organized and then apply for your license. Then if you're lucky enough, you get a license. And just to get your product, now starting from the grower, they need to grow it a specific way, right? So no pesticides, it's very, very they really, really are strict on the cannabis industry, specifically literally more strict than alcohol, more strict than cigarettes, more strict than a ton of other industries, like even agriculture, like lettuce or whatever the case might be. Just because it's cannabis, right? So everybody's suspicious about it, so they really, really are giving everybody a hard time. So just from the grower's perspective, the things that make the growing cheaper or like make them able to yield more flower, like a lot of these things like they can't use anymore. So then they're getting the flower and then they're selling it to a distributor. And so a distributor takes the flower and they charge the grower tax per ounce of flower that they sell them. And so the grower pays their tax and they're good there. So that's one level of tax already paid.
Okay.
So then the distributor, what they have to do is they actually have to go and sell, or they have to go test it at a testing lab. So every flower that's there, they test it, and then that testing lab has to take a random sample and they have to say like, okay, does this pass California's requirements or does it not? If it doesn't pass California's requirements, all that cannabis is now gone to waste.
Wow.
Right? So they just lose all that money, all the investment, everything that they put in up until that point. If it does pass California's requirements, then now the distributor gets to package it. If they need to make it into a manufactured product like an oil or a tincture or a brownie, edible, etc., then they have to send that to another person that then needs to make that product and then get it tested again after they've made it. Okay, so let's say everything's going great. It's just going to be flour, right? So they went and tested it. Everything's good. Then they have to pay the testing lab for their services, of course. And then now the distributor can go and finally give it to the retailer. When the retailer gets it, they're paying what's called an excise tax. Okay. So let's say, just to keep it simple, the distributor sells the retailer $1,000 of cannabis, right? So what the state of California assumes is that the retailer is going to mark up that cannabis 60%. So what they're assuming is the retailer, when they sell it, they're going to get $1,600. So what they do is they make them prepay for the tax before they even sold the product. Okay. And they're prepaying for the tax on $1,600 of product. So they pay 15% tax right then and there. So they give that to the distributor. And then now finally, they could sell that product to the consumer that with the excise tax, in addition to regular sales and use tax that you get everywhere else. In addition, specific counties like LA County or here or there, they're imposing their own additional cannabis taxes. So as you can see, every step along the process, it gets more and more expensive.
Right. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that's how.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing now for sure.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, it's obviously, I guess, having a dispensary not as lucrative as it used to be, and this is just recently. They said that 2017 is when these laws were passed. So if more people start to get in this space, will any of that will still always stay the same? Basically, so it doesn't look like the future. What does the future look like for?
So it can get better. That's like the good news, right?
Okay, that's the good news. All right.
So I mean, the state of California could do a ton of things. Like for one, they can lower the excise tax. They could lower like these other cities that are coming up with their own cannabis taxes. Like if they lower the taxes in general, that'll make it easier for the legal market to thrive because then they can actually compete with the black market dispensaries, right? So if that's gonna happen, probably not, right? Like I was in it was in San Diego, and the Bureau of Cannabis Control, which is one of the new regulating bodies that have opened up in California. They kind of came down and they're sitting down and they're listening to the people speak and give feedback on the laws that they passed. So all of 2018, they were passing laws and getting feedback and changing them and getting feedback and so on and so forth. And literally people came down and they told them like, hey, you need to lower our taxes so we have a chance to compete because people don't want to buy really expensive cannabis. Yeah. And if we can't compete with the black market, then the black market's always going to thrive. Yeah. Right. And so, most consumers don't know that like, hey, that's not tested cannabis, what's in that, et cetera. Or even if they do know, they're just like, how bad can it be? Right. I'm paying $25 or $35 versus like $65 over here. So, people kind of came out, they voiced their opinions and the people in charge of the taxes and stuff were there. It just didn't really seem like they were listening or taking it into account at that point, though. So that's one thing that could change. Is that going to change? Probably not, is what I'm assuming. What's more realistically going to happen is as more and more companies come in and big players open up like acres and acres of grow houses and etc. Like the big money comes in, then that's really going to drive the price of cannabis down. So the taxes will always be there, but cannabis will be cheaper in general.
With more players coming in.
With more players coming in, yeah. There's states out there right now that literally have an over in Portland or in Oregon in general. Right now, there's an oversupply of cannabis. Right. Like they literally cannot get rid of their cannabis fast enough. Wow. So it's literally, I don't know the exact pricing, but it's something ridiculous, like $10 an eighth, or like it's literally that cheap because they can't they're not consuming as much as they're growing.
I see.
Yeah.
Oversupply.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for diving into that for us. It was very intricate.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break right now, but we'll be back and we'll get to touch on a couple other things that you have already mentioned. These days, cannabis consumption has gotten classy. If you consider yourself a modern connoisseur, Flav has everything you could want, from sophisticated vapes and premium edibles. Their products are great for experts and beginners alike. They have vapes ranging from their potent black label, clocking in at 90% THC, to more approachable 70% THC vape oils. If you're a real enthusiast, check out their newly released live resin blue label. It's top-notch stuff. Oils are available in reusable cartridges and disposables. And if vaping isn't for you, they also offer an extensive collection of quality edible products and cannabis-infused beverages. Try out one of Flav's endless list of products today, or check them out at flavinc.com. Hey guys, welcome back to Hypothesis. We are here today with Art Abrahamian, and he is giving us a breakdown on legal stuff and prices of cannabis and how to get the most for your money. Something we touched on in the last segment here was sort of competing with the black market, and I think that's something that I've definitely gone into a dispensary and I haven't really known, like, is this a legit dispensary? Is it not? And there are some telltale signs. I don't know if you want to kind of talk about that, what to kind of look for to avoid, and why it's important to avoid those, or if you think it's important to avoid those,
Sure.
just kind of that.
Sure. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously the telltale signs, sometimes you just walk in and it's like...
kind of sketchy.
In the back of an alley or, some hidden sketchy area, then, that's an obvious... the biggest giveaway, besides, like, sometimes they look really nice and presentable and, like, you literally can't tell the difference. Mm-hmm. So the biggest giveaway is if their product is tested or not.
Okay.
So, and a lot of these testing labs, what they're doing is they're putting their stickers with their logos, like, on the actual product itself. So if you look at a legal dispensary, they could only legally buy tested product that's past California's testing requirements. So if you just look on the product, it'll tell you, like, this has this much THC and this much CBD and, like, all this other science stuff, and that's basically how you'll be able to tell. Okay. Also, if they're not charging you taxes.
Right.
Right. So, like,
unless they're super shady and they charge you tax price, right?
Yeah. They could also do that. They could also do that. So, yeah. I mean, either if they are charging taxes and they're still shady, then look at the product.
Right.
But if they're not charging taxes, you don't even need to look at the product. It's like an illegal operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, why are there so many? Because there are a lot out there. There are a lot of them. Why would you say? Obviously, I'm sure, like, resources wise for the state, it's probably limited. Yeah. But because they keep popping up, and I'm sure it's a huge problem for the state. And I know it's been in conversation, like, oh, this isn't working in California. And how does that kind of affect the overall legalization of cannabis, would you say? Yeah, so it's a huge problem, period. Okay. Like, literally, it's like kind of a war between the legal market and the illegal market right now. And there's people that, and the thing that people need to realize, or California as a state needs to realize, is that this was a thriving and booming and ongoing industry far before it was fully legalized, right? So that's like a big part of the problem. People are feeding their families with the money that they're getting off their cannabis business. They're putting food on the table. So for California to come in and say, you know what, this is the new way it's going to be, and you can't put food on the table for your family anymore, right? That's a problem. Most people are not going to just take that, like, laying down, right? So there's not a simple solution to it. There's not a simple answer. But the fact of the matter is that this industry has been going on and thriving in California for dozens of years, right? And then all of a sudden California just introduced a new rule book and kind of told everybody, like, get with the new program or get out. And some people just refuse to get with the new program altogether. Others are trying to get with the new program, but you need lawyers, you need luck, you need knowledge and information, and, like, it's not an easy process. Right. So probably expensive, right? We did talk about expensive and lucky. It's not all just about the money. Sometimes, like, certain cities, they'll do, like, a lottery system. Oh, okay. So you get everything in place, you spend all the money, you get the lawyers, and then you just don't win the lottery to get the license. Because there's, like, a limited amount. There's a limited amount. Okay. Yeah. So that's really the issue, and the other issue is, like, not only are the businesses keep popping up, right, but it's the consumers keep buying, and that's part of the problem. That's actually one of the main reasons I wanted to come here today, is to educate the consumers on what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, right? And although I feel for those people in the illegal market, it's like you have to try your best, because this is not
it's not changing, right? This is a new way there's a new direction that things are headed. So if you're smart, if you're savvy, if you want your business to stay alive, then it would be best for you to not just continue doing things illegally.
Right.
So yeah, and then you obviously can't blame the consumers either, because a lot of time the prices are cheaper. Sometimes it's not even like so another issue is the cities themselves. Like one city will say we're banning dispensaries, right? So altogether you cannot get a legal dispensary or a delivery license in a specific city, right? But the black market exists in that city, and they don't care about the rules. Right. So like consumers all the time have no option either. It's like if you want your cannabis, whether for medical or recreational use, there's an illegal dispensary and an illegal delivery in the area, you're gonna get your product from them because you literally can't get the product legally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is aside from what's the trade-off? If obviously you go into an illegal one, you get cheaper prices, but your product isn't going to be tested. A lot of times, or maybe your edibles are not regulated very well. So what are some of the trade-offs that you're going to experience if you go into an illegal one, and your prices are cheaper, but at what cost, basically? Like what are some specific things, like cost of sickness? Or
I would say 3 specific things. So one, dosing.
Okay.
Right, so because they're getting product that isn't tested and isn't regulated. Like you could get a brownie and it tells you, oh, it's a 10 milligram edible or 5 milligram edible, and you eat the brownie and you're like on space. You know what I mean? It's like you're risking that for sure.
Okay.
Just the testing, not just for the dosing, but for the pesticides, any other, like you literally don't know what's in the cannabis that you're consuming, and there's nobody regulating them, right? So they could be using all sorts of chemicals, all sorts of like things that might give them like a better yield, or make like stop the cannabis from going moldy, or like whatever the case might be, but it's really bad for your health. Right. And then third, the really like the new big brands that are popping up in California, like the ones everybody wants to try, those are all legal cannabis brands.
Right.
So a lot of the time, or all the time, you shouldn't be able to get any of those like actual brands that you're seeing around. You shouldn't be able to get them in the illegal dispensaries. But that brings up like another issue, bootlegging. So that's like, even another thing that makes it more complex, right? So like literally people are ordering things from China, like packaging and stuff that will mimic like the notable brands in California. They're making knockoffs. They're filling it with their own oils, their own they're putting their own flour in it, etc., and they're giving it to these illegal dispensaries. So it is an extremely complex problem.
Wow, yeah.
And again, just because it's been around forever in California, and so it's like we're in a transition period and just trying to get through it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize that there was the knockoff problem. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So something you're in the space of is the delivery space. So do you want to just touch on what does delivery look like now? How is it legal? How does it kind of just break down delivery? Because it's going to become, I think, very popular. I think it's already gotten very popular.
Yeah. So we're betting on delivery. That's kind of where our money's at, and because we focus on that as a software company. Like, if you're a dispensary, you could use our software, sure, but if you're a delivery, you're gonna really, really love our software. So we're the only company in the world that's focused on cannabis deliveries.
Okay. And
because of that, obviously we have specific features and things like that make it much easier and better to run a delivery that no other software has. So what delivery looks like in California currently is actually really good. The regulations were really good for deliveries because, one, they cemented deliveries. So what I mean by that is they came out with regulations and they said, deliveries were already going on in California before the regulations, but the regulations cemented them and said they're here to stay. There is a delivery license. It's a retail non-storefront license that you go do delivery only. And there's a bunch of rules and regulations for deliveries. And that's one of the things that California did that's unique that not many other states, like there's a few states now that are opening up some delivery infrastructure, but most of the states that you heard about like going recreational before California, like Colorado, Oregon, Washington. Like Oregon and Washington are now starting like a little bit on the delivery thing, but I think California took the lead on that one, right? So so it's really interesting with a delivery. What you could do is you could operate on 2 different models. So different people have different terminology for them, but one could be like a pizza delivery model. Okay. So by that I mean, the driver takes a few orders, like, you grab a few pizzas and then you go and deliver, and then you come back, you grab a few more orders, you go and deliver. So that's one model that you could do have a delivery business. The other thing that you could do that's really interesting is you could actually have your drivers operate on what's called like a kit model. So the drivers themselves could have up to $5,000 of inventory in their vehicle at any given time. And so there's certain restrictions with that, like they need to, if they have $5,000 of inventory, they're in their vehicle at the main central office, they have to get an order for them to like go out, right? So you can't just like roam around and stuff like that. And then if they get another order while they're out there, they could go deliver that order. But if they don't get an order for 30 minutes, then they have to come back. to the central location. So what that's actually doing though is like it's making it really quick and convenient for you to get cannabis. So if you order from a delivery that's operating on that model, what they'll actually do, which our software helps support, is they'll have drivers in specific areas. Like there's like a driver that's going to circle around Santa Monica, for example, right? And then you order your cannabis and it's here in 2 minutes because the driver was like
right there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's exciting for the future of delivery. I think we're gonna go to a quick commercial break. And we'll be back to discuss, a little bit more about the legal cannabis space. Hey, so today we live during a really exciting time where cannabis is legal and the landscape is ever changing and we have so many options to choose from, which is just really the best news for anyone who's excited about cannabis. The problem, though, is that there are so many options, too many options. You go to the dispensary and every single thing that you can think of is available to you in some cannabis form. They have inhalers, cookies, drinks, just everything. And if you're new to the space or you are just starting out to navigate the legal cannabis space, it can be very, very overwhelming to try and find what it is that you want. If you want something very specific, you may not even know how to communicate with the person at the dispensary to guide you to what it is that you're looking for. And the result of that might be that you end up spending your hard-earned money on a product that isn't going to give you what you want. Simply put, you know what it is that you want from your cannabis experience. But up until now, there hasn't been an easy way for you to arrive at that. Sure, Leafly is going to give you lots of options of products, but there's no guarantee you'll be able to find those products if you find the perfect one. Weed Maps, on the other hand, is going to give you lots of places to find products, but there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to give you the product that you want. Luckily, Cannacopia solves these problems and more. Cannacopia gives you all the control. You can dial in exactly what it is that you want from your cannabis. The mood that you're looking for, the effects, taste, consumption method, you name it, Cannacopia is going to give you an option to select based on your preferences. It gives you cannabis personalized, and you're going to find the perfect strain, perfect product every time. And once you get a result, we're going to give you a dispensary where you can find it, or you'll get a delivery method available to you immediately. Cannacopia makes finding your experience easy, something that is needed right now in this time where there are so many options and you just don't know where to go. Cannacopia is available for you in the App Store, whether you're on Android or Apple. Check us out today and discover your bliss. Welcome back to Hypothesis. This is Val, your host, and we are jumping into the legalities of cannabis. And for those of you listening in, I'm sure you're curious about how to make sure you're getting good quality stuff, good legal stuff. We want to always be in line with the law. So today we have Art Abrahamian here talking to us. And just as a final sort of remark, just kind of what advice would you give to consumers who are new to the space and how to make sure that they're getting quality stuff, getting proper delivery, that sort of thing? Any guidelines?
Sure. Yeah, so, one of the positives about California making everything legal is that everything is much safer because it's regulated, right? It's kind of just what happens when, cities or countries or states, whatever, decide to make something legal, they regulate it. So, as a consumer, everything's more convenient for you as well. So, like, for example, with our software, we make, we have software for cannabis deliveries, and what they could actually do is they can make a website through our software. So as a consumer, that's super convenient for you because now you're just, you're on their website on your phone, on the mobile app, you're on the computer or whatever it is, and now you have like a central place where you can just order your cannabis from. So and then on top of that, as a consumer, what I would look for besides, a legitimate place that's reliable, and it's gonna good delivery times or whatever the case might be. Good technology that they're using to give you a good experience. I will look for a place that you're comfortable with the pricing. They have a good loyalty program as well, right? So that's another important thing to consider as a consumer. If you're, especially if it's a delivery and it's a good delivery service in your area, you could consistently get them to deliver with a good delivery time to your apartment or house or whatever the case might be, then might as well rack up some loyalty points while you're at it too, right? So that's another thing to look for. And then lastly, there's a bunch of really, really cool brands popping up all over the space in California, and that's what's really exciting right now. Is you could try this person's flower and this person's edibles and this person's vape or whatever the case might be, and you as a consumer, I would recommend just trying it all.
Okay. And
then as long as you're dosing yourself properly, you're not if it's an edible, start out at 5 or 10 milligrams. Don't get the whole brownie or whatever. Look at what they recommend on the package. If it's flower, you don't have to smoke a whole joint or whatever the case might be. Just take a few hits and see how you feel, right? But after a while, what you'll do is you'll start to see okay, this brand has good flower, and this brand has good edibles, and this brand has good vapes or whatever the case might be, and it's always going to be consistent now that it's regulated and tested. So then what you could do is you could start finding your favorite brands. And then once you find your favorite brands, then you're going to get the same quality product, tested product from them every time, and then you're pretty much chilling. Just get that brand each and every time, rack up your loyalty points, stick to the one business, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. Doesn't have to be a burden to try to get some cannabis.
Yeah, set it and forget it after.
Exactly. We're even working on some cool features being able to schedule deliveries, or how Amazon has the recurring delivery.
Right,
Just sign up and once a month you get that delivered for you. So now essentially long story short, now that everything's legal and it's a legitimate business, it's just they just open the gates and open the floodgates, and we could do really cool and innovative stuff, as well as the businesses themselves doing really cool and innovative stuff, and it ends up being really good for the consumers.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next 5 years. That I'm sure you are too. Everything's changing.
Definitely.
And your personal projects, you guys were working on WebJoint.
Yeah.
Do you want to just dive in a little bit more about just that? And
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's webjoint.com, WEBJOINT.com. It's webjoint.software on Instagram. That's essentially, we're a software company. In its purest form, we've been a software company for about 6 years at this point, and we just develop software and push out code literally every single day, specifically for the cannabis industry. And we recently begun to obsess over the delivery industry specifically, just because California was the first to really do it the way they did it, and we're stationed in California. The company was born and raised in California. We've always dealt with that client base even before the new regulations came out. So we're kind of just obsessing over it right now. We're one of the very few companies in the world that even offers features for deliveries, and we're the only company in the world that focuses on deliveries specifically. So yeah, as a consumer, if you see the delivery has a website, right? And you go to log in. If you see the Powered by WebJoint at the bottom, that's us. And you're gonna be seeing it more and more as the industry grows and develops, and it's gonna be fun.
Wow. Hey, well, congrats on your company and getting out there. And yeah, we wish you the very best. And we hope to use any delivery service that is powered by WebJoint. We want to thank you for being here today. It was a pleasure to have you answer some questions for our listeners about legal cannabis, about the pricing, a little bit more on the business side. So just thank you so much for being here.
Perfect, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
It was a blast.
Yeah, awesome. And to our listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give it a good rating and subscribe for more content. We are Hypothesis. We are here to satisfy your kind of curiosity. My name is Val, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Alrighty. Have a good one. Stay high.
Yeah.